Alright. We are live yet again. So, we are going to react to the final part of the NASCAR 21 Ignition. So, let's get it up there. So this is the newest episode from what I can tell, so let's get it to where we need it to be. And then, not that. Freaking position for that. So for it. Alright. We're going to enlarge that. We can. Alright, that's much better. So, we've already gone a few bit further, so just rewind it. Put it on full screen. I did not get why I started playing. Anyways, final episode for the Dev Diary on NASCAR 21 Ignition, or part. Yes, it's a 3-part series. So, we're going to react to it in 3, 2, 1.
It's what we came to do! It's what we came to do! To our inside look at NASCAR 21 Ignition. We're wrapping up our 3-part Dev Diary series by looking at the people who made this ambitious project a reality. This game was made possible by people from across the globe, and we cannot thank them enough. NASCAR 21 Ignition is a title we've built from the ground up, and contrary to what some people might think, we've moved on from what came before.
This is absolutely not NASCAR Heat 6. It's not a NASCAR Heat game. It's a whole new franchise, and I think it's a great place that we're rolling into. With a lot of what we're focused on is authenticity and bringing out real aspects of stock car racing in what this game is.
For the 2021 game, I think there's been a heavy focus on really just making sure that the Cup Series is as competitive as it is. When you sign up for a team in the career mode, you're going to go straight to a Cup team and get those offers. But it's going to focus on hitting those marks and doing what you need to do for that team to prove that you belong there. I think the ability to go out there and put yourself in a Cup car, not everybody gets to do that. Even Xfinity drivers don't get to do that. There's a ton of drivers who come up through NASCAR who never make it to the Cup Series. But this game is going to give you the opportunity to jump right in, be a Cup driver, and feel what that experience is like. And I think that's something that a lot of the fans are really going to enjoy.
And we hope you do enjoy it, but don't rule out seeing Xfinity or truck drivers in the game just yet, because as the seasons progress, you might see drivers come and go. A name you might have heard a lot during the development of this game is Studio 397, the Netherlands-based team behind R Factor 2. Their vehicle physics, tire modeling, and AI systems have been brought over for NASCAR 21 Ignition, and it's really something.
Studio 397, they bring a whole wealth of knowledge of racing games and graphics and visuals that I think is super important as we move forward with the next iterations of the NASCAR game.
Studio 397 has been awesome, not even just from a physics standpoint. We've worked with them for about the last year and a half on improving multiple areas of the game, including AI and dynamic track. A lot of what you see in NASCAR is related to the idea of being able to race side by side, or one guy runs the outside wall, that famous Kyle Larson line, or Tyler Reddick line now. You've also got the guys at bottom feed, like Kevin Harvick at Atlanta, that are just known to go down there. So a lot of what you'll see is dynamic AI racing between characteristics with the AI, but as well as just general AI line running. A lot of what we've done at 397 is not just enhance the fact that now we have a proper driving physics model, but now the AI have a little bit of dimension to them, and they'll be able to run different lines, and the player will be able to interact with that.
As we look forward to the future of this game, I feel like they're going to play a crucial part in how we evolve and how we continue to improve. We look at some of the products that they've worked on that are out there now. I feel like those are some of the best racing games out there. So if we can marry that with our NASCAR game and deliver that to our fans and our players, then I think it's going to be highly encouraging.
But getting Studio 397 in to give their expertise on physics and simulation is but one new avenue for NASCAR 21 Ignition. We have also shifted over to a new game engine, and the results, as you've seen so far, are stunning.
Visually, we've moved to Unreal Engine from Unity, and that helps us in a lot of different aspects, but I think overall what that does is just bring us up in quality.
The visuals, as you play this, are really what pop out to me. The speed when you're in the car.
A lot of what you see now is just a little bit clearer, crisper quality. The shadows, the sense of speed, the colorization, like it's hard to really put into detail what all that is until you see it.
The things around the track that you don't even really think of, that are maybe flying in the air, planes flying in the air, balloons, things around the racetrack. They're not core to the game of racing, but they're added elements that I think just people really enjoy.
Being driven by Unreal Engine really sets the foundation for what we're trying to do in the future with next generation titles, and we felt like was the best direction to move in visually.
Studio 397 is just one piece of a larger puzzle. While we work directly with NASCAR in some aspects of the game, we also work with real NASCAR Cup Series drivers to get an insight into the sport only they would know.
So we've worked with plenty of drivers in the past, with Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and others, and we look forward to continuing that tradition moving forward with this current project and in coming years. And I think they're all very excited for what we're building. I think they're very pleased with the direction that we're going in and what we're providing as far as physics, visuals, and the cinematic approach. I think a lot of their feedback has been related to just how authentic it really is and feels and what we're going for.
Their input helped us include a whole new dimension to racing in NASCAR 21 Ignition, an area it feels only drivers can tread.
One of the biggest things about this game that we want to kind of showcase is we want to take the player and make them feel like they're a driver, make them feel like they're at the racetrack.
In those moments in practice, there's so much going through your head that it's almost unconscious effort as far as, getting back out of the garage and going around the building and getting onto the racetrack. That stuff it's so subconscious to where you're really only thinking about, okay, I need to do this and hit my marks here. This is what I'm looking for in my car. This is what it was doing last time. You've got so many things happening rapid fire in your head because that's the moment where it gets real.
You're counting down the minutes to go out, right? And I was like, all right, weekend starts now.
Be pushed back out of the garage stall by your team members. That was one of the coolest things that I've seen. The national anthem and the flyover and just standing on pit road, you really get the feel of this is what it's like to be at the race. As somebody who's worked on race teams and been in the garage, it's been really cool to see that aspect, to be sitting in the cockpit and be handed a data pad. And that's how you work your setups. You can see your lap times in there. Because those are things that actually happen in real life.
Now, that's a great feature you guys are going to do. Just like you said, a little bit more immersive experience of what we go through. It's not just, like other racing games. It's like, all right, cars on pit road, roll out. It's a whole different thing in the garage area. So it just makes you feel like, all right, this is my car. This is, what I do. And then you can go back and look at all your data and stuff like that. It just gives you the full experience, which I think is a great addition.
A lot of people have sat in the stands or watched on television, but they might not have had a hot pass or the ability to get in the garage or on pit road. And I feel like we're trying to give them that experience, and it really comes through.
But the drivers weren't only offering their experience to NASCAR 21 Ignition, we also needed someone to be sitting in the virtual driver's seat. Taking a real-life person and putting them into a video game isn't an easy task, but we got a bit of help from a load of cameras to scan the drivers' heads and put them into the game. Looks like a pretty cool experience, right?
I mean, it's definitely a new experience getting scanned, and just looking forward to seeing what that turns into on the TV. It's like I never actually thought about getting a chance to be in one.
A lot of cameras. It was quicker than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, that's a little bit different. Never had that done before.
I've seen a lot of stuff. I've been racing 33 years now, and I've seen a lot of different TV studios and things like that. I have never seen nothing like that. That was more cameras per square inch than ever before in my life.
It's a lot of cameras for sure, but it gave us some really detailed information that could be translated into the final models you see in the game. It's almost like scanning a track, but on a much smaller scale, and not to eventually be driven over. But how much did it mean to these drivers to see themselves in a video game?
Well, it means a lot. I remember picking my favorite drivers as a kid. Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, whoever you idolize or really enjoy that person, that athlete, and that kids are doing that with me. That makes me feel like I was a kid again.
It's hard for me to give myself some perspective that someone would want to, get in a video game and like, oh, where's Cindric, I mean, that's something I struggle with conceptualizing. Maybe that's just because I don't think that much of myself, but it is very cool, though, because that's where I've come to in my career.
The platform it gives you to interact with fans and do stuff like this, to be in a video game, stuff that I would never imagine.
Getting to be a part of the video game is just something that you never think about growing up, because I've played these games as a kid and stuff, and it's just like now to actually know that we're going to be in there and then you're going to see me standing in a game somewhere. It's just honestly can't wait to see it. It's just crazy to think about that.
Being involved with video games isn't anything new for many drivers on the grid, with some of them even getting into the sport through playing NASCAR video games of old.
I played a lot growing up. That was a good time passer, especially in the bus when I traveled with Dad. The original NASCAR Heat game, that was probably like the one that I played the most.
I also remember playing, I think it was NASCAR 2011, had that on PlayStation 3. And when I was a kid, Brad Keselowski came to my house, and we actually played there. We raced each other. I think I beat him one time, and it was like the coolest thing ever.
It's amazing how far video games have come. Racing video games, any kind of video game, but the racing stuff is really neat to me because it's just getting more realistic each time. And different tracks, it's a cool way for fans to play as their favorite driver or go to their favorite track, whatever. But yeah, I played a lot growing up, and it's been neat to watch the progression.
But in the same way the drivers of today found themselves obsessed with NASCAR through gaming, the next generation of fans, or even drivers, are getting involved in the sport through their consoles.
There's a lot of new interest in the sport this time. We're seeing new owners in the sport. We're seeing new fans entering the sport. People who have never seen NASCAR before ever are now interested in because all these big names like Michael Jordan and Pitbull are getting involved.
Kids playing video games and getting introduced to the sport at that level at home creates interest, right?
You can't just go out and throw a basketball. You can't go out and just drive a race car. So it's really your own connection as a race fan.
I remember the same thing happened to me. I started playing racing games, and next thing you know, my interest in racing goes up. I want to go to the racetrack, so I think it's great, and I think it definitely helps spark interest in young fans.
When you have new eyes on the sport and you have new fan interest, I think it's important to have a new game at the same time that really allows them to get the feel of what it's like to be at the racetrack, what it's like to drive these cars. And I think, things that are going on behind the scenes that the development team and engineers know way more than I do. I'm really, really encouraged. And from the week I started at Motorsport Games, it's something that I've been really encouraged and can't wait for everybody to see.
Building NASCAR 21 Ignition has been an amazing experience for all involved, and we hope you've enjoyed an exclusive look into how we've made the game across this series. We set out with the goal of creating an experience truly representative of being behind the wheel of a NASCAR Cup Series car, and the hard work put in by our teams all over the world has resulted in something we're really proud of. NASCAR 21 Ignition pre-orders are live right now, and we can't wait to see you on the track come October 28th.
It's what we came to do.
Wow. Okay. Hey. That face right there. So I got so here's how I started, right? Okay, so it was first my dad was racing, but that was all the way back then when I was little. He was like doing like the type of sim racing he was over on NASCAR 09, NASCAR 08. It doesn't matter what EA Sports NASCAR it was, because he was like the best at it. But going back to me, how I started doing sim racing or how I just started doing these NASCAR games. Like, okay, I started it back in how can I put this? Like 2010, I want to say. 2010 is when I started playing on the game, and it was and at the time it was NASCAR Online, or not NASCAR Online, NASCAR the game 2011, and that was like a U-Technics game, right? I was in that 24 car, and usually it was that 24 car. I was like, I was pretty good doing driving on the PS3. It was like all the way back then, but then you take a look at now. I remember playing NASCAR 2011, the game, or NASCAR the game 2011, however you want to call it. I played that back then, and I'm like, dude, where has the times gone? And just, I played so many NASCAR games. NASCAR 09, NASCAR the game 2011, NASCAR Heat 3, NASCAR Heat 4, NASCAR Heat 5. It's too unbearable. I mean, well, it's just too unbearable. I'm like, yo, these games are just so amazing. I cannot think how I'm like I can't just stop playing those games. It's just whenever you grow onto a different console, over on, like, I'm on PS4, for example. I just literally think NASCAR 21 Ignition could be the next generation of just stock car racing on consoles. Like, shit. I'm like in a league, come to think of it. I'm in a league full of guys who can race over on NASCAR Heat 5. I'm in a league, I'm in like so many leagues. It's just, you know, I'm just well, you know, in NASCAR the game, or in NASCAR 21 Ignition is going to be that good of a game. I can tell you that from my perspective. I've been like waiting forever since like the beginning of this season, this NASCAR season. Now, I mean, of course, you have to take a look at the good side rather than the bad side. The good side is that this game is gonna make you feel like a child once again. You know, it's gonna like feel like you wanna be back in your childhood, just playing NASCAR Thunder 2003, and shit, man. I cannot wait for NASCAR 21 Ignition to come out. I can't. Because back in my childhood, I'm like that NASCAR guy that watched my dad just do that NASCAR 09 shit over on the Xbox 360 or something like that. It was usually in the living room. I'm just like, yo, I gotta watch. I gotta go back into those days, man. But anyways, shit. No, those were honestly my thoughts on NASCAR 21 Ignition.